Hey, this is Del Jackson. We got a special preview show here. I'm here with Andy Brackett, and we're going to talk about a little bit of last year. We're going to talk about a little bit of this year and talk about Happy Thanksgiving. So here we go. We'll talk a little bit. We'll hit on last year's LL hoops. I wanted to talk a little bit about the LL championship game, and we live streamed that game again, and Lebanon beat Hempfield, a very close game. And then I don't know, about a week later, they played each other again at Lebanon, and Hempfield turned the tables on them and beat Lebanon. And Hempfield turned around and lost to a really, really good Wilson team. We got a guy playing at Marquette right now. So, Andy, what did you see with Calico and Mennonite and Catholic?
Yeah, it was a unique year, obviously, hopefully one that was strictly a one-off in terms of its weirdness and all that sort of stuff with district champs only. But you're right. We did have a couple of teams that made really deep runs. Calico comes to mind. They had a couple of heroic games in the district tournament. And then the game, which I know I'll never forget, even if I have a case of Alzheimer's, I probably won't ever forget that and the way that turned out. They played a perfect game against Lower Dauphin. For what Calico likes to do, shrinking the game, making it ugly and nitty gritty, they did everything they had to do. They just let one shot go in, and it was at the worst possible time, which meant that they were the district semifinalists. And with last year and how that wasn't good enough. That was their ticket out. So they would have made states in a normal year, but again, last year was not normal. So that was the end of their run, but they did make it to the 5A finals in District 3, which is pretty darn good when you think about it. And then Catholic, that was kind of the team that I adopted more or less. I went on their entire run with them. They played Columbia, kind of similar to the way that the Lebanon and Hempfield game went, where they played each other and then they turned right back around. And you kind of got the feeling that game was going to happen after the LL, I don't know what that was, the quarterfinals or the play-ins or whatever that was at Catholic. You kind of had a feeling that game was going to come up again. And sure enough, it did. And it went the exact same way. It was a tough game. Catholic won late, similar to the way in which they did with the LL game. Then they beat Riverside, I think it was, in the first round of states. And by the way, of course, I should say that Catholic beat Columbia in the district final. That was the game I'm talking about. And of course, they were the champs. They got to move on, unlike Calico. Beat that team from up north on a buzzer beater 3 at the very end. And then Karma got them. They played Mass Civics and Science down at Cardinal O'Hara in the very next game. And this time they hit another late shot with about 2 seconds left, but that was 2 or 3 seconds or however long the actual time was too long for them, because then they had a kid that's going to Miami, hit a half court shot on him at the very end of the game, banks it in, and then their season's over. And then those were the 2 teams I saw in their district finals that won. And then funny in the way that I kind of follow Catholic, you were the Mennonite beat reporter, so you know much more about them than I do.
Yeah, Mennonite. We saw Mennonite real early, and then we saw them towards the end, and they really got their act together, and they had a really good final game at their place. I don't even know what the point spread was, but they won fairly handily against Antietam. And then they lost to, what did you say, Riverside?
No.
Old Forge. And that was a great game. I was at that. That was just a wild game. There was foul trouble, and it's always different when you get into a PIAA game, because you have different refs and you have different styles, and it was totally different. And fans from both sides were a little wound up at that game, but it was cool following them, and we'll talk about them a little bit later as we go here. So a pretty good year, a weird year because people were wearing masks. Spectators weren't allowed, or some spectators were. A couple tickets here, a couple tickets there, and it was just different. It was a different year. So as I'm looking at it, as I'm talking to everybody here, it looks as though we'll have full gyms, at least from what I'm hearing. And the gyms might have a mask mandate for the fans, but the players will not. So that'll be good. And the mask mandates who knows, December 4th, January 17th. So you just have to check with your schools to see what they allow and what they don't allow. So let's go into this year a little bit, Andy.
Okay.
You know, let's talk about Section 1, and I'll let you roll with it and see what you think.
It's kind of funny. This has become a new tradition of ours to do this on the day before Thanksgiving. And I was driving over here on the way tonight. I'm like, I think a lot of the same things we talked about in years past, we're going to talk about again. So let's just go 40,000 foot view here real quick. I think a lot of the same things that we talked about the last couple of years of maybe hitching your wagon to someone in the quote unquote lower ranks of the classification system, like your 3s and 2s.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably going to be where you're going to make the most hay as far as the LL goes, like long-term in districts and possibly states.
Yes.
There's a couple that we might see in 5, maybe 6, but I mean, we know how top heavy that always is. And that's kind of a mid-pen playground so far. What I will say, though, to kind of tie in last year to this year is, and I may mention this at the end of last year too, I think this is finally the year where the LL kind of takes Berks back from that kind of second tier from where it was. Because I always think kind of the mid-pen is always going to reign supreme from A to Z. It's just, that's going to be hard to beat. And I think by and large, we have to call a spade and say Berks was, as a whole, probably better than the LL the last couple of years. I mean, just think about what they were able to do.
Yes.
You have Lonnie Walker, McDonald's All-American state champion. They don't even win the district, but then they win the district the very next year. And then you have Rick Perez wins Coach of the Year. You have Matt Coldren wins Coach of the Year. In 6A, these are both 6A coaches in the state of Pennsylvania. Muhlenberg, I think, wins districts the one year. Nesby's 5A Coach of the Year. What they've been able to do is phenomenal. So you would think by and large, they're going to have to kind of come back to the pack a little bit anyway. But what I will say is I think, unlike a couple of the years previous with the LL, most specifically, the depth is going to be true, talented, and good depth. There's going to be, you're obviously going to have a middle or an upper, a middle, and a lower class. You're just going to, obviously, that's the way things are going to have to shake out. But I think it really is going to be a lot of quality depth throughout the entire gamut of things. I really think that based on who I kind of saw in the summer, what I kind of think is coming back, I think that's really going to be the case for this year. But to your point, we'll start off with Section 1, going through all 5 of the guys we got. This, again, I think is going to be a conversation similar to what we had last year, where it's going to be it's probably going to be a hodgepodge. But I do think you have to start off with Hempfield. They're going to be my preseason pick to win the section. And that's not really a huge, I mean, it's huge to win the section, don't get me wrong, but I say it might not be all that big when compared to last year, because if you remember, we were just taking champs in only sections only. We weren't doing 2 bids per division, which hopefully, again, knock on wood, we get back to 2 anyway. So we can kind of get back to normalcy in that sense. But I do think Hempfield is kind of going to be the team to beat. There's a lot of other teams in there that are going to have a say. I mean, Township, they're kind of big and lanky and, well, not lanky, but they got size to them. They're going to be long, and that's going to be hard to contend with. McCaskey's always going to be the wild card. And I will say this, I did see Bird play in the summer league this year, and I did like what I saw out of him from the point guard.
The point guard.
Correct.
Excellent. Correct.
Because him and Pena from Hempfield, who is one of the top players in the league, were going head to head. And it wasn't just a case, they were going head to head in a game they played at Brandon Park this year in the summer. And this wasn't a case of like, it's just, one-on-one and just kind of garbage basketball. Like, it was good, intense, like back and forth type of thing. I mean, so I like what I saw out of them. The team we've actually talked about quite a few times here amongst ourselves is Penn Manor. Penn Manor is going to be better than what they have been in the last couple of years. I really liked what I saw out of the Comets in the summer league, but it kind of goes back to what we've also discussed is what does that look like tangibly in terms of what the Section 1 standings is going to look like in their favor, because it's Section 1. It's where all the big boys are. What is that actually going to look like? But I do think Penn Manor is not going to be like a far distant, like 5th or 6th place team or whatever however many teams are in that division. I think there is, to illustrate my point, quality depth in each one of the sections. And that's just, I think that's evident right there.
Yeah. I for the Comets, I'm just thinking sometimes you got to learn how to win.
Sure.
And if they win some big games early, I think they could get on a little roll. So I think Section 1, I'm with you from what I saw last year and what we have coming back. It's going to be it'll be like Section 1.
Well, and Crest. I mean, I would have to think that was a one-off year for Crest. I mean, that program is way too solid to let that kind of be a harbinger of things to come long term. I think Crest is going to get back, and I have heard that really their up and coming classes in years to come are going to be a beast.
Yeah.
So we might see them here this year and kind of the beginning steps of maybe another Cedar Crest resurgence.
Yeah,
so
very, very young. That's what I heard too from some people in Lebanon County. So let's go to Section 2. So Section 2 in the last couple years, basically it's been a Warwick playing ground. Let's just call it like it is. They've done really well the last couple years. Played in the LL finals a couple years in a row. They lost some people, but they're not super big. We don't have a roster on them yet, but they're not huge from what we've seen of them. But they seem to play like crazy on the defensive end, at least. What did you see of them this summer?
I did see them quite a lot. I saw them in the fall, actually, over at Cedar Cliff, and they kind of beat the brakes on Wilson, which is saying something. It's funny. Well, not funny is not the right word. It's cruel in the sense of, if we were doing this show in, let's say, August or September or before the news came down that Luke Collins is not going to play, I would say Lebanon is your league-wide preseason favorite. I think Luke is that good. We've seen him play quite a few times last year, as you mentioned. We love the way he plays. Him and Ferreira have that nice little 1-2 punch in the backcourt. But obviously, as I'm sure a lot of you know who are tuning into this, Luke unfortunately blew out his knee, won't be playing this year. And I think in some ways, when I say that, where Lebanon would be the preseason favorite, but he's no longer playing, I think you could almost make a case, well, he should be MVP this year and he's not even going to play a game. I mean, that's kind of what I think of him. But I do think Lebanon has quite a few bit of horses in them. And I saw when you were talking to Andrew at Fox 43 the other day, you kind of made mention of Section 2 and how wild I think it's going to be. Yes. I think this is going to be the most competitive, certainly
top to bottom.
Well, correct. And certainly for the last couple of years, like you said, Warwick has paid the mortgage for everybody else basically in that division. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Not saying they can't win, but this ain't no runaway for anybody. No matter where you look. I mean, we can start with Warwick. Tate Landis, he's going to play college basketball. Yep. We know that. Yep. we already know that for sure. Yep. He's a good place to start. They do have a couple of football kids that I liked in the summer, and obviously they need to get their sea legs back under them because they only stopped playing on the gridiron like last week. CV is
sleeper team. What do you think?
If anybody saw La Academia play last year and Salisbury and his crew, they're now Buckskins. Ooh. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. A lot of talent there kind of overnight, which is good for Coach Shipper. We've said before, we think he's the right guy for the job. And hopefully with these new pieces, hopefully that kind of, comes to fruition. But we talked about Lebanon. They still have Ferreira back in the backcourt. Again, they're missing Luke. They do have other pieces though. I know Kevin Smith is a little guard that we liked before. But again, to go back to Lebanon, I think Isaiah Rodriguez and that how, crucial he was inside to give him that high post presence to where you can bring him out. He can kick it to one of the guards. He can kind of do his thing. He wasn't going to be playing this year anyway because he graduated. But that's going to be, I think, a pretty big loss because, as you said numerous times last year, nobody in Section 2 really had that bull inside, and now they're not going to have that at all. So that will be interesting to see that. But speaking of big men,
I was going there. I was going to say, speaking of big guy, let's go to E-Town real quick.
Yeah, Guildhall.
we're both thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so there is a quality big man in Section 2 with Guildhall at E-Town, sophomore this year. And if those of you have been following around on the Twitter sphere, pretty much everybody in the Big Ten is at least sniffing around E-Town and checking in to see what's going on. So, I mean, you're the historian. I just want to ask you, let's just take that at face value. When's the last time that we have seen high major BCS level conferences kind of looking around here? I mean, seriously, that's a pretty big statement to make. I mean, we've had like the, Lafayette's and the Delawares and those type, but I'm talking high major, like multi-billion-dollar industries for college athletics. When's the last time we've had something like that here?
I would miss somebody. I mean, I can think of some guys. I mean, but
Solanco, Maryland,
Johnny Miller, Maryland had Sheravicious. I think I got the pronunciation correct. Johnny Miller, we had Bowie.
So that's 70s, 80s.
Yeah,
like
that's
we're going back a while.
That's 70s, 80s. Mike Bechtel from Lebanon, he played at Princeton. He got some sniffs. Klein from Lebanon, he was a D1 guy too. So there was some sniffing around there. I'm sure I'm forgetting some guys. There's no doubt. But you're right. To have people look, and in our league, 6'8" is very big. We don't have a lot of guys that are matching up height wise with a 6'8" guy. So let's go back a little bit. Last year, I mean, Calico brings Augie off the bench, and that helped them tremendously. I thought, in their little playoff run there. It's the last game. So that'll be cool to see. Let's talk. Let me hit a little bit on Ephrata. Just a little bit, because you've seen Ephrata, and Scott Gaffey he's the man right now. He's in charge of that program, and sometimes it's tough, but I think the second year is always better than the first year. So, what did you see from the Mounts this year, summer?
They're kind of in the Penn Manor mold. Okay. They are better. I mean, there's no, from what my eyes, which maybe I need to get them checked anyway, but from what I've seen, I like what Ephrata is doing. But again, it is kind of going to be the Penn Manor conundrum. How is that going to take shape? What I will say is they are going to be much more of a legitimate threat to beat some folks this year that, unlike years past where I think the Warwick game got like way out of control last year or something like that. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, just because not only that they have improved themselves, and I think what they're doing with a young coach and, well, really a young staff in general, I think the kids are really starting to buy into that. And what's nice with Ephrata, and we kind of talk about this, they're kind of in the CV mold where they're a big enough school district, and as if in the same way with Shipper that he's doing in CV, this is really becoming like a year-round investment. Whereas before, I don't think that was necessarily the case. Basketball was kind of a thing to do. But now these guys are over it. They're in this showcase, and this summer they're over it. They all the time.
They've played all over the place. I mean, not all the time do they have all their guys. I talked to a couple of their players after a Nook game, and they're like, "Well, this guy's here, this guy's there." But they are playing, and that's got to help. Okay, let's shift to Section 3, and last year finally the I don't know, the stranglehold, if I can use that term, the stranglehold on the Section 3 was actually broken last year, but I think it might be back again this year. Go ahead.
The stranglehold is back.
It's back.
It's back. I gotta be honest. This is probably the one section above all else where I can say everyone, as of whatever the date is, 11/23, everybody's playing for second place in Section 3. I think LS is far and away superior. That's not necessarily a dig at everybody else. I know it is going to come across that way because that's who your competition field is. I just think it's LS and kind of everybody else. And I think in the way where you kind of take Lebanon away from that preseason favorite, I really want to put LS at number 1 overall in the entire league. Hempfield, I think, is on that same par, but that's going to be something where we kind of really judge that in the week of the tournament, because that's always going to be the age-old question. We know Section 1 and how they just kind of weasel their way into the finals with one or two slots. What does that do for a team from Section 3? LS has done it, most recently with Ryan and that crew, so it's not unheard of.
So why are you saying LS? I mean, you're like LS. So give me some reasons why you're thinking that they're probably they're the class of Section 3 preseason.
Well, first of all, you have to start with the little guard who's a sophomore, who is one of probably the best guard in the league right now in Ty Burton. Let's start off with him right there.
Good start.
Well, and the other thing too, and the other reason why I say that is when I saw them even this fall in the summer as well, and that in the summer, yes, you're right. You have guys doing this thing and this thing and this thing, but you kind of sort of have a core group because nothing is in season. Everything is just, I'm going to lax or whatever. But in the fall at Nook, they really have the same core group of guys that they had in the summer.
Okay.
So, for them, including Burton, basketball is a cohesive thing. Like this is our sport. Other guys from other sports, we're happy to have you whenever your season ends. But this is kind of our team, and you're going to kind of come in with us, and we're going to get you started because this is our core group, and we've been here the entire year. And I mean, I think that's, to your point, and you know this just as well, if you have that core group that is together every month of the season and you can count on them being at everything, that's so huge. It's especially in Section 3 where you're not dealing with the biggest schools. You have competing interest in different sports and whatever else, but I just like LS a lot.
So let's say we're back to 2 in each section. So who's competing for, who's in the dog race for another slot in the LLs?
I do like Central. a lot. They have another good guard.
More guards.
What's funny is this is the year of the guards. I mean, seriously, think about that. I mean, we aren't a very tall league anyway, but you look at guys like Pena at Enfield, Bird, Burton, Landis, Grube, Rios, Burton, Footman, Glover. I mean, do you want me to keep like?
No, well, we'll hit them, but that's right. I mean, you're absolutely right. So when we go to see games this year, you and I, and if we're live streaming, we're the focus is going to be on these guards that not only are good guards handling and giving the rock out, but they can. All these guys that you mentioned can score. Right. So, okay. So we got Central. What else in that section?
I tell you what, I really like Solanco. I really, really do.
Coach Long's third year?
I believe so.
Okay.
Well, you could say it's the Long's been in charge. It's been in the family. It's been a family business.
Okay.
But yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah. But yes, I like Solanco. Now, granted, take that with a grain of salt because I did not see them at all in the summer. I don't know where they were at. I'm sure they were doing something, obviously. But I did see them against LS. And for as much as I'm pumping up LS's truck tires here and whatever, I forget off the top of my head, but certainly for the first half of that game where they played LS that I saw at LS, which whatever, no fans, whatever, they were the better team. They were the better team. There's no other way to describe it. They took it to LS, and that really made an impression on me.
Impression on you, okay.
Spot has a lot of guys that showed out for preseason practices and stuff like that, so interest is there. We know Cacalico's in there too. Cacalico's beat up right now. It's for them. They're going to really have to get their sea legs here under them to
shoot the three.
Right.
They'll be a 3-point shooting team. So Central. I mean, from what I saw last year, I mean, I don't know. We have, we're opening with LS and Central this year on the live stream. So I'm pretty excited. Well, how about a follow up? We got CV and E-Town.
Yeah.
That, that's pretty. We'll be seeing some good play. All right, let's shift to 4. What do you think? Like again, was the stranglehold broken last year?
No.
Could it be this year?
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. So what do you think for Lancaster Catholic? Let's start with them because they just seem to have some sort of the next guy up type of thing. And they have a culture of winning.
Yep.
And they're used to winning. And, you know, I don't know if the star's there this year, but go ahead and talk about them.
Lancaster Catholic, I think, is the Michigan State of the LL. And I say that because I'm sure they're going to load up on their non-con because they know what they think they can get to in the back end of the schedule and how that can kind of grizzle them and, you know, marinate them and pound them and everything. But I also think if you're going to get Lancaster Catholic this year, you got to kind of get them down early as far as in the section standings. Like you got to get wins on top of wins to kind of knock them back a peg because I've said this before. I'm going to say it again tonight. I think Coach Blazes is the best coach in the league. With what he's able to do and, you know, the kind of the mad scientist with this defense, and you don't see it until like the third week of February, which by the way, it's the playoffs at that point. Like I can't speak his praises high enough, but you're right. Catholic does not have, we were talking about Atkinson at this time last year. He ain't there. He's not. I mean, Conway's not there. So, like I said, I think with Catholic, if you're going to get them down and at least get them behind in the race, you have to do so early. Because it's just, again, like a Michigan State, you know, they're going to turn it on. You can just set your watch to it. But how, you know, what are they going to do at that beginning portion of the slate? We've been talking about Octorara since they came into the league and like, is this it? Is this finally the year? Is this finally the year? I think it could be because I do think like section 2, section 4 is just this kind of not Wild West, but I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a pecking order to it, but I think you're really looking at Catholic, Octorara, and I mean, Elko has grown men on the front line. Those are just men masquerading as like high school juniors. And
so we talked about not having height usually in the LL. So we have a team, Elko, that has some big boys.
Yeah.
Some real big boys.
Yeah. Some men. Yes. I mean, here's 6'6" coming back. What else do I have here? I have 6'2" coming back. I have, which again is not huge, but when you add on their just when they get off the bus, they look the part. Yes. I mean, you got 6'1" here coming back. I mean, you just look at this. I mean, there's a lot of 6s on here. There's not a ton of 5s, and we're talking about Elko. We're not, you know, I mean, this isn't McCaskey or, you know. Yeah. So I think that's going to play a factor. But you're right. I mean, we do have who do we have here? We got Hamilton, the younger Hamilton.
Yes, I was very.
You like him a lot.
We saw him. I think I saw him twice live last year, and I thought the one game that we saw, he was one of the, if not the best player on the floor. I think he's going to be outstanding this year, just outstanding.
Right. And we still have, you know, Peyton Wolf. I like him at Northern Lebanon too, and
more guards.
And Northern Lebanon. No matter who you talk to, if they're on their schedule, it's like, when do we have to play there? Please make it a Friday night. And if it's one of the crossovers, it's like, can we please get Northern Lebanon at home? Because everybody hates playing in the Snake Pit. It's where dreams go to die for other teams that are not named Northern Lebanon.
How about the Indians? Like we've talked about some of these other teams that just struggled in the last couple of years, to be honest. So Donegal, I know I saw them, you and I saw them up at the Nook, and they were playing Mennonite, and they beat them in overtime.
Right. So
I was kind of impressed with what I was seeing on the floor, but I was impressed with the bench and the cohesiveness there.
Sure.
So coming back, building blocks.
Well, I mean, just look, I got the roster right here and we can look at it. I mean, there's not a lot of 12s, and this is last year's roster.
Yes.
There's a lot of 10s. There's a lot of 11s on here. This guy right here, Khalil Madison, I love this kid for the last couple of years. He's kind of a stretch kid. He's 6'2". He can score in a variety of different ways. He's going to have to fill it up for Donegal.
Okay.
He's really going to have to be the engine that kind of drives that entire force. But I mean, like, we're just looking at this. There's a lot of kids coming back. Yeah. And again, with really no prohibitive favorite.
Right.
You have to assume they're going to be a factor in the race in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
And with a team like this, with a coach like Dolan, who's been here before, you get a couple of these wins strung together. It's like, whoa, where did this come from? You know?
Yeah.
So
probably I will say, as an ex-coach, I will say, once you learn how to win, and you win some of those close games, then all of a sudden things go better for you. Sure. Once you learn how to lose Nebraska football, then it seems to continue.
We're done. That's I'm not wearing the gear. I don't support
I'm surprised you didn't have the gear on, you know? It's like Penn State just got a 10-year extension.
We love being comfortable. That's what our fan bases are. We love being comfortable.
My gosh. Oh, Lordy day. All right, let's go to 5 because it's I think that's going to be the section that gives us district champs and has a shot to make a nice run in the States. I mean, we got how many classifications we got in 5? We got 3 classifications. We got 1, 2, 3. We got 1. Yeah, we got three different size schools in section 5. And with the loss of Lebanon Catholic 2 years ago, or this past year, they had to kind of mishmash and find some other players and other teams. So when I do their schedules, we're going all over the place to get games. You know, we're going to small schools, we're going to Allentown, we're going to Berks, we're going to York, we're going all over the map. And I mean it's interesting to say the least. So go ahead, I'll turn it over to you. Section 5. I was a Mennonite follower last year just because of the way they did. And I know them fairly well, but you know the rest of the boys better than I do.
Let me ask you this. We think it's going to be the 2 horses, most specifically Columbia and Mennonite.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Let's assume we go back to 2 bids per division. How deep do you think we can possibly go with either one of those 2 league playoff-wise?
Oh. Somebody asked me
because we're talking about.
Andrew asked me this the other day about Columbia. So here's what I would say. I would say to compete at that level.
Because think about it. You're talking about 2 teams that are probably gonna be district champs.
Hopefully that would be their goal. I mean, that would be their goal. I'm going to say this. So looking at teams in the LL, especially the smaller classifications, I think in order to compete for a LL title, you need guys that have played. So you need like senior leadership.
Sure.
You need guys that have played for three years. So we have that.
Yep.
You need the ability to shoot threes.
Check.
Okay. And you probably need some physical 6'4", 6'5" forward type of guys that can handle not getting to be able to, number one, eat some fouls.
Sure.
And number 2, to be in good enough positions when you're playing some of those Section 1 and Section 2 schools that are good at pounding the glass and are very physical, to be able to hold their own. They don't need to necessarily win that game, but they need to keep another team off the offensive boards. And I think, and sometimes depth is an issue. Yeah. And I would say probably one of those teams, if not both, that I'm thinking of, might have a little bit of depth issues depending on sickness, grades, foul problems. So, can it be done? I think so. Is out of Columbia and Mennonite right now, if you're asking me, Columbia probably has a better shot at going farther in the league. That's just me. That's personal.
What's funny is I'm looking here at the rosters and we're talking about guards. How did I leave out the leading scorer?
I don't know. I knew we'd get to him. The dude, he is so sneaky.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah, he's sneaky. I forgot about him.
Oh, he's crazy fast. Go ahead, talk about him.
No, I mean that's, again, you were on the Mennonite beat. I mean, you sing Hamden Hurst's praises for me here, please.
Well, again, he doesn't.
And David Weaver, 6'6".
Well, yeah, Weaver. I thought from the beginning of the year to the end of the year was the most improved player on that team. The Hurst kid, I don't know. I've watched him play 6 times.
You can't figure it out. Is he enigma?
No, I can't, because he scores 25, 30 points and you're scratching your head. It's like, how in the world does he do? Because he's very good at driving and using both hands inside. And he's fast, and he doesn't look like he's fast, but he just all of a sudden he's
basketball fast.
Oh my gosh, he's super fast. And then you're like, okay, well, just let the guy shoot him. Very talented, man. Very, very talented.
Yeah.
And he puts up numbers with AAU teams,
right?
When he's playing with different players, not just Section 5 competition, but when he's playing with the big boys, he's putting up some numbers too.
No, you're right. I mean, Section 5 is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be two teams kind of jockeying for that top spot all year long. And I think we're probably going to maybe have a split in that matchup. I feel comfortable saying probably the home team's going to win because those are two of the wildest environments.
Yes.
Their respective home floors. You got the Loud House, and then you got the Hill, which is just insanity, especially when they get a big game. But Columbia, I said this, especially during their little football run they had this year. I really thought they could do the double dip of football and basketball, but football is now gone and it's now basketball. And you think about it, back on the 3A field last year. And again, it was so constrained because we were taking champs only, but really who's going to really step up and compete with them? I mean, Camp Hill, maybe. I mean, Mid-Penn, I mean, you kind of have to equate for that, but then you have Catholic, and we're just talking about, well, we don't really know what Catholic's going to be. And like, if they don't get off to a fast start, kind of a la Manheim Township the last couple of years, where they start slow, but they figure it out like gangbusters at the end of the year. I think in 3A, I think Columbia is got to be your district favorite to win the entire thing. And then when you get to states, if you get a favorable draw by winning your district, that can set you up that really well for states. Because when they didn't win districts the last year or so, when they got into states, when they played at South Philadelphia High School, which those of you that were there, that was the experience. I'm just going to leave it at that. But they played School of Future, and it didn't go very well, and they lost, and that was the end of that. But I think this is really, and Coach Glover's talked about this for a while, especially the last couple of years when he was really getting his guys and infusing his little his DNA on what his program was to look like. It was kind of more of a, we're getting there. I like what I'm doing right now. I like what we're doing right now. But I think once I get these guys indoctrinated into what I want to do, we are going to see something really, really tangible and something successful. I think 2021, 22 is going to be that year for Columbia. I really do. But yes, to get back to my original question to you, I'm really excited to see what these teams can do if they both get into the league playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to win the entire thing. We know how arduous that is. But I think these teams are dangerous enough that we can maybe say semis, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment.
Absolutely.
And then to your other point about Section 5, with all of the different classes we have in there, Country Day is always the fly in the ointment every single year.
I'll tell you this, Andy. I put up their roster today. So we talk about guys that are bigger. They have some 6-footers on their roster this year, and some guys that didn't play last year. Yeah. So they are single A, and they are playing the big boys night in and night out. So they will be battle tested one way or the other when it comes time for their districts, which they should get in the districts. Just because of them, of being good players and good team and good coaching. And it's a fun place to play. Oh, by the way, I want to tell you, we are scheduled to do Mennonite and Columbia on a live stream. Just want to let you know.
Very nice.
So you heard it first. Hope for no rain.
No snow.
Hope for no snow. Hope for no sleet. Hope for no COVID stuff. Nothing. So we're planning on being there. We're going to Mennonite. So
nice. At the Loud House. I like it.
Yeah, at the Loud House.
So, but no, I did want to touch on Country Day real quick. Here's another guard I forgot. I forgot about Grant Landis. I can't. There's too many guards. I can't keep track of these kids. There's too many guards. Too many little dudes running around. But to your point, I this year, yes, I understand what you're saying with all the kids that they have coming back. But even on a normal year where maybe they're kind of starting anew, being in single A and playing in the LL, where you're the only LL team in single A, you're going to get your PowerPoints, and you're going to get your just real natural experience that not a lot of other teams can offer.
Not a lot of single A schools.
Mount Calvary is a damn good team, and you have to worry about them. But if you get, I forget how many teams from A get in. Is it 4 or something like that? If we're going normal. I mean, just by nature, it's funny. Every year you look at Country Day's record, and they're like, it's not fantastic because of the teams they're playing, but you look in the district, and they're like way up there.
Yes, PowerPoints,
right?
Because of who they're playing, and that's been a good move for Country Day and the LL. You know, I think you know, it's a cool facility, and they've shown. I mean, they won district title a couple years ago, so you know, it's. It'll be fun. I like them. Okay, who do we miss in Section 5? The Dutchman on a rebuild.
Yep.
Who else do we miss? Is that it?
Who else did we miss here? I got Mennonite. I got Anvil. We don't have Lebanon Catholic. I mean,
no. I think we hit them all. I think we hit them all because they play. I think they only play 10 games in the league.
That's true because they're the funky.
I know. Right. Yeah, maybe the LL can find somebody else to join us. I mean, I think that was one of the ideas with the 5 sections, and then next year we're going to 4. So, you know, I mean, Mennonite or Country Day will be getting more PowerPoints because they'll play in big schools, more big schools next year, but their scheduling should be a little bit better. So we've already highlighted some games. What do you want to see this year? Like, what games are you excited to see? Besides, I'll take Mennonite and Columbia off the screen. Can't that we already talked about them.
Game wise, that's tough. I think a couple storylines. What I want to see. Let's start off with that. If I can do that,
sure.
If I can peter out into that.
Sure.
I do want to see what Lancaster Catholic looks like early on. I do want to see what they're able to do. Again, to your point with the new cast, but the same old coaches who know exactly what they're doing and they know how to figure it out no matter who's on the roster.
I think McDevitt's coming in early, if I remember right. So that's always a big test game.
I kind of touched on them earlier, but Township follows the same script every year where they start off slow, but they always figure it out. So
pretty
again,
tough at the end of the year
in a Section 1 where I have Hempfield on the 1 line, but maybe not far and away number 1. If they can get off to a, faster start and then finish off in the same type of way they were able to do last year. And I mean, it's not funny, but you kind of have to chuckle with how weird last year was. Is there any team that felt more experience of how COVID actually was than having to play your JV team in the district playoffs?
No.
Like, I mean, how weird, hopefully those days are behind us and we can have full teams play at their full capacity. So
the only other thing that could even come close is when McCaskey had to play with 5 kids.
True, right.
That's the only thing. And that wasn't, I don't think they lost all their starters, but they only had 5 kids. But
that was a self-induced issue.
Exactly. But that's the only thing that I can think of that was even close to that. I'll throw way back in 1974 when Cacalico was in the Eastern semifinals. They got hit with a flu bug, and they beat Exeter in the district finals, and then they played them in the semifinals, Eastern finals, PIAA, and lost to the same team. But they got hit with a flu bug. But again, beyond their control type of thing, and the COVID. I guess that's the biggest parallel. The Cacalico because they got hit with a flu, and the COVID with a Township. But that's 50 years, like 250 years. But yes, that was rough on those kids. But I think they dealt with it though. I mean, I didn't hear a lot of whining. It's just like,
they played.
We're playing, and we're going to do our best, and that's what you got to do.
I mean, think about it, and think about those kids that are coming back. They were probably on JV only.
Correct.
Now they played against, a legit Red Lion. I mean, I don't know how far Red Lion actually got, but I mean, that was varsity against JV in the playoffs where it don't matter who's a JV player and who's a varsity player. If you ain't winning, you're going home.
They don't put any asterisks behind
it.
No.
But I like Penn Manor a lot. I really, really like Penn Manor a lot. Again, I want to see what they do in Section 1. Stay in Section 1. Is McCaskey going to get their swagger back?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been this has to be the longest span in a couple of years where have we not really said it's McCaskey and everybody else? Like maybe Hempfield will challenge them or whatever, but it's McCaskey.
Well, last year they tied.
Right, but I'm saying like
but we only played 8 games.
Right.
You know, I mean, there wasn't that round robin, there wasn't the crossovers. You know, it'll be interesting in Section 4. I always feel when you had those crossovers, the lower numbered team, if they can win some of those crossover games, it puts them, and a lot of that has to do if you're home.
Right.
I hate to say it, but a lot of it does have to do if you're home and you know how you play against those teams.
Sure.
So, what else are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to hopefully fuller arenas, but I will say I will miss COVID in the sense that I had my own little area roped off, and you can't come close to me. This is 6 feet. You can't. This is my area. Please don't come within me. But you know, sitting in the bleachers, it is what it is. But no, it is going to be good. Hopefully, we can get that normalcy back, and we don't have to have. First of all, I don't want to really have interruptions. I mean, I don't know what. I feel a lot better this year than I did last year. I'll be honest. Going into last year, I was like,
no, you said we wouldn't play. I remember.
Well, yeah,
you were very leery that we'd get any games in.
I was, and I do feel a lot better going into this year. What is that gonna mean? I don't know, because I'm not. Again, I guess I'll play scientist, but with everybody kind of avoiding each other for the last year, I think you're going to have a lot more colds and a lot more flus and a lot more stuff like that. So people might just be sicker,
right?
But if that's going to be a thing where, well, you don't have to sit out for the cold or the sniffles or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But yes, I do feel a lot better going into this year from that perspective, that it will be 2 teams per division in playoffs. We're going to get full districts. We're going to get full states. We're going to get we're going to get everything we're used to seeing.
Hopefully we'll get back on the floor there at the states. What do you think? State finals, hopefully we'll get back in.
Well, you were on the floor. I was up in the nosebleeds. I had to buy my tickets for Reading State Championship.
But it was worth it.
Oh, it was worth it. But it would have been a lot better being on the floor. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I mean, for the league as a whole, I'm really excited about this year in particular, because I think this is kind of the year where top to bottom we kind of take that next step. Yeah. We've been down for a while. I mean, let's just be honest. We've had good teams, but I don't think really from top to bottom it's been all that strong. But I think this is going to change this year. Yeah. And I know, speaking of Section 5, I know you talked to Coach Rittenhouse, and I'd really like what he had to say at PV too. He's in that mix too. Yeah, no, that's another proof of what I'm saying.
Yeah, he was a great interview. He was really honest, and they're building things and they're starting things, and he's feeling better about the kids that he has in the program.
Well, they're not talking their numbers, because he said his youth numbers are like, I didn't expect, like, that was high from what I thought PV would have.
But they've just started that. You know what I mean? Right. His program, since he's been the coach there, they just started, and that takes a while for it to get good. And he's got some really good assistants, some good helpers. Yeah. And as you know, that playing up there it's a wild place to play. All the Section 5 places.
Well, they're getting a new gym, he said too, right? They're getting a brand new gym.
Yeah,
I didn't know about
down
that.
the road. Yeah, which will take away the home court advantage. Ask Anvil about the home court advantage. I got up there to the barn, and I'm like, well, it's not like our old floor with the crazy parquets and all that. But yeah.
You're the guard. Bottom line, you're the guard.
Well, that's good storylines, because everybody will be following it, and and the thing is, some of those guards are still not even recruitable. They're not 12th graders. I mean, we got some 10th graders and 11th graders.
Yeah, there's some pups.
Yeah, that should bode well for the league in the future. But I know you've talked about the league in general as far as strength. So I think I'm with you. You know, if you have good guard play, you can play with anybody. I don't know if you can beat anybody, but good guard play, you can do a lot of different things. We have no shot clock, and I don't know, some of our teams run some tempo, and a lot of people are against it, but it makes for interesting when.
What do you think about a shot clock?
I'm not a fan.
I'm not either.
No. I watch enough basketball that it seems to me, when I watch a high school game, 35 seconds. I mean, you watch a game and at 35 seconds, that means if both teams do it, 35, you're talking 2 shots a minute. It's like, that's not happening. I mean, even with teams that run tempo, they're usually getting shots up quicker than that 35-second thing. It takes a little bit of coaching out of it too. It's like, okay, do we hold the ball with a minute to go to get a last second shot?
I'll be honest. I know this isn't really the avenue to talk about it, but I don't like it for the sense that, like, I'm just thinking of Hempfield and the years they went to states. If they have to shoot with a shot clock, I don't think they're beating Allentown Allen.
Yeah.
I don't think they're beating Coatesville.
Yeah.
That's out of the gate.
Yeah.
Now, that you lose kind of the storylines where it's like, I don't know. Be careful what you wish for, because you might get a lot of chalk in terms of your like postseason and your, things like that, because you're going to allow teams to be who they are. If you want to run up tempo, what do you care about a shot clock?
Correct.
It means nothing to you. I
Correct.
mean, like, but if you're a team that, hey, listen, we know we got to shrink the game.
Yeah.
We got to take the air out of the ball. Yeah, we can do it for 25, for 30, whatever the
Correct.
thing will be.
Correct.
But then you're not getting a great shot.
Right.
And
Right.
then, like,
Right.
you shrink the game. And if you don't hit on your one shot and you lose the rebound, then you're going down the other end. And it,
Yeah, you're down by 8 before you know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's just, but whatever. I'm a curmudgeon like that.
Yeah. Well, it's not here, and I don't think it's being discussed in the rules. So we'll go.
But it's a hot topic. I mean, you hear about
it.
It
It is.
all the time.
It is. We get some feedback from it, and we ask it in our interviews all the time. So that kind of stirs the pot. We got tip off December 10th coming up. I'm getting some rosters in. Coaches, when you get your rosters, I know some of you are scrimmaging and don't have everything yet, but when you get them, send them to me, and I will put them up as soon as I can. And we're looking forward to full rosters. We got a couple tip-offs, Andy, that have LL teams in them. I'm thinking CV's got. I think they got three teams or 4.
CV, because Calico and Warwick actually tip off,
Okay.
and it might be the first game of the season, because I think CV tips off like way earlier than anybody else. It might be like a 5:30-ish type thing. I don't know, but I do know Calico and Warwick are playing to start the season on that first night. That I do know.
And I think Donegal has Penn Manor, and I think there's another LL team up there too.
That'll be a big game for 2 teams that we said are like,
and hopefully
you get out of the gates.
Hopefully they'll meet in the second round, and that might be an interesting game to see as well. Things on the LL Hoops side. We're looking for a sponsor for a D3 show. Nobody's doing that.
District 3 show.
Yes, the District 3 show. We'll talk about PowerPoints. We'll get some different coaches on from York and Berks and our area. If interested, let us know. I don't think we can do it without a pretty good sponsor. We're looking for a restaurant, but it doesn't have to be a restaurant. We can find a place. So that's that. Twitter, everything. LL Hoops. Following's going up. Andy's is going up. Or John K. Northeast Beats going up. Bruce has followings with football and basketball, so that's going well. We're going to try to do the live stream with the finals this year. We'll see. Again, I'm hoping. So we've done it for 3 years in a row, and I think it's been a really good thing for the league. It's been good for us, and we'll try to do that. We're going to try to get some live stream games in. I did announce a couple of the games. The first week, I think the first week of the LLs, we're good with those 2 games. And then other games, it kind of depends on whether we can get out, whether we can get in, whether the ADs can fit us in with their people come back in the crowds. I mean, we got to have a space, and we got to get out. But we're going to try to do that. And I would think that this year will be pretty much like 2 years ago, where we're getting out and we're doing our thing, and looking forward to seeing some games.
Well, and the other thing too, I know you want to make mention of, is even if we, for whatever reason, if we do have a technological glitch that night, we are going to have the game irregardless.
Yes.
And I know we make a lot of our hay after the fact, so it might not be. We do want to get you a live game live, but you're still going to get whatever the game was, whether it is live or delayed after.
Yeah.
So that's a big improvement.
We're gonna record everything. So let's say I'm at Lancaster Mennonite. We're doing Columbia and Lancaster Mennonite. For whatever reason, the Wi-Fi we can't get out, which we had issues with last year. We will record that game. So I know in the past we just kind of waited to try to see when we're getting out, and people are getting frustrated, and we get some emails and all that stuff. So we'll try to. We'll record them. And then what I will do, I'll come home and I'll put it on the computer. We'll put it on the YouTube, so you can at least see that game. Most of our, as Andy said, most of our traffic comes after a game. So we might have 20, 50 people watching the game live, but then we get people that are at the games, and other players and coaches like to see what's out there. So I do too. I'm a fan. So, I like to see what's going on with these guards and these teams, and it should be fun. The LLs, I think, are the week of the 15th of February, so they're back like a week later. So that ought to be interesting too, that teams have some time to get their PowerPoints and all that good stuff, but we'll keep you up to date on that. So the only other thing that I want to do at some point is I'll get a hold of some of the LL refs and see if there's any rule changes. I like to keep up on them, and I think that's important that we know the game too. So,
well, with more fans, you're gonna a lot of over the backs are gonna
right.
Hand
checks back in.
Everybody wants to see those, right?
Yeah. Hey, one other thing before we go.
Yep.
Reading High.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Perez has been really good with us.
Yeah.
He's got to be the favorite to win the district.
I mean,
he's got to be.
So yeah, they won states last year. They're bringing back pretty much everybody, I think. You have to start with them, and part of that is why I say I think a lot of your hay has to be in the 3 and 2A things.
Yes.
You got a beast in 6A.
How about
right there?
Let's just hit 6A just a hair.
Uh-huh.
So besides Reading,
mm-hmm.
who else like in the mid-pen? I'm thinking CD. Is that?
I tell you,
who have you seen this summer that impresses you? Well, I saw Harrisburg play a couple times. They have some really nice guards. Who did you see that you looked at and say, you know what, this could be one of those teams that makes a run?
I'm glad you said that, because I was over at Cedar Cliff the other week for their annual Colt tournament thing, which, by the way, I'll get to who won the championship, but during the championship game, that was during the Illinois and Penn State slobber knocker. So you had people running to the lobby to look at the big screen and look at like, oh, wow, they still haven't scored, and we're in the 47th overtime. This is a real classic. But anyway, the team that did win that I really like is Cumberland Valley. I was told that the team I saw in whatever that was, the middle to later part of October, was their team this year.
Okay.
Minus one kid.
Okay.
So much in the same vein as LS, who is good, and they have a core group. They're Cumberland Valley, they're 6A, and they got an entire team. Forget about a group. They got an entire team that's there the whole time. They're big.
They have some big guys, right?
They have some big guys. They have some big guys. They can go inside out. They got a really, really nice team. I saw Chambersburg. We talk about this all the time. Chambersburg is not afraid of anybody
Coach
at all.
Sean.
They are not afraid of anybody. I mean, that's 6A.
Yeah.
I mean, Harrisburg, again, you have to figure they're going to have some sort of a say in something. They do have a really nice kind of stretch too. He's a kind of a tall, lanky kid. I forget the kid's name, but I really, really like him. But as far as the mid-pen in 6A, Cumberland Valley is going to be really, really good. Now, Central Dauphin loses Malachi Palmer. He's out.
Yes.
Donovan Hill, though, is still in, I believe, and he's going to college as well. He's one of those I already committed before the season type of thing. They beat Warwick, as we remember, in districts. Wilson is probably going to have to be a factor. Again, that it's kind of weird to say that when I say that the Berks is probably going to come down a little bit, but it's Wilson. I mean, you want to talk about a team that would hate a shot clock. I mean, the Lord.
Yeah.
When you lose,
they have a system.
Right.
Wilson has a system, and they stick with a system, and it's just done so well for them.
Right.
Just outstanding coach team, and I love their gym. I mean, I've only been in there a couple of times, but
well, then you like Township. It's the same gym.
I know, but they put more people in it than Township does. I get
think
to
so.
I do. No, I do.
I thought it's exactly the same. Maybe it's not.
Okay. How about 5A?
Who isn't in 5A?
I don't know. I'm just asking. That's thinking off the top of my head.
Well, 5A is the division is the class that I don't like, because you can lose your first game and it's okay.
Okay.
Like your back's against the wall after you lose your first game, but you can still go to states, which I'm not.
What's LS? 4 or 5?
5.
Okay, so LS is,
and that's the team that from a bigger class that I said at the very, very beginning of all this might be interesting to keep an eye on. But I mean, with so many teams in 5, I'm sure there's a slew of mid-pens in there. I'm pretty sure Cedar Cliff is in there.
Yes.
They're supposed to be good this year. I did see them, obviously, at their own tournament. I like them. But yeah, when you talk about your bigger classes, we already touched on the Reddings and the Cumberland Valleys and like a Cedar Cliff or somebody like that, or, I don't know. I forget what Hannah is. Maybe they're 4 or 5, but teams like that, it's just going to be tough, I think, for us in our league to maybe make a push towards a district final, save for, again, maybe like a Hempfield or a LS or somebody like that. But I mean, who knows? I've obviously been proven wrong before. I do those bracket things before the league tournament starts, and because I see everybody, I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. And on the first game, like I was losing in the first game, like the stupid playing games. It's like I don't know what I'm talking about. So
that's why they're playing games. They're pretty,
but I should know what I'm talking about.
I should know what I'm talking about. Pretty equal teams, I mean, we've done a couple live stream playing games and covered them, and one we had overtime and buzzer beaters, and usually it's a pretty good game. The playing game's kind of fun. It's a good way to kick off things. So, hey, thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Happy holidays. Big turkey.
This is a new tradition. Well, not a new tradition. This is what, the 3rd, 4th year we've done it?
Yeah.
So it gives you something to talk about.
Is this the first time we've done it on the Zoom?
That's right.
We usually do SoundCloud, yes?
Well, we probably weren't even legally allowed to meet in person last year at this time anyway. So
Andy was on the beach. I'm like, hey, Andy, is everybody around you? He said, oh, nobody. I draw a circle around me, so nobody's on the beach with me.
Yeah.
So all good. Hey, we'll see you. We'll see you on the trail. Shoot us questions on the Twitter if you have any, and good luck to everybody. And we're very happy to be back. Yep. 22nd year, 2-2 for LL Hoops. All right. Good night.
See you guys.